canines, or at least blocked up canines, appear to be easy to position on the arch, but there are some considerations that need to be taken into account. The first one is pretty obvious, is the difference between the axes in the transverse between the canine crown and the molar crown, where you may want to be pulling for, or worse, if you go from the premolar to the canine to the lateral incisor, there are significant differences in transverse positioning. The second option that needs to be looked at is the amount of space available. And again, many people will run an open coil spring to push these teeth back and this forward, but it's usually not really indicated, because you can see that probably you don't really want to move these incisor roots too close to the crown of the canine. So many times a molar distalization procedure may be a better idea by using a lingual appliance and pushing the teeth this way by opening the space without using the incisors as anchorage. Something that needs to be reminded too is probably before you put a simple force to a wire, once the space is open, you want to stay away from the lateral crown. So all these have to be taken into account, and obviously the center rotation and where the apex is going in relation to where the crown is going has to be calculated. So if you look closely to the first movement that needs to be done, is from this perspective we need to get the canine out of the root of the lateral incisor, while at the same time distalizing the premolars and molar. And once the canine is out of the trough of the lateral root, you can start moving the root of the lateral incisor and the crown of the canine at the same time, same rate, to get into a much better position. But remember, you still have to correct the transverse problem that you could not do before because you had the lateral root to take into account. So now what you're doing is you're bringing the tooth here and you torque the root. So let's see this from a different perspective. From this perspective, probably. So then the tooth is moving down, it's getting away from the root. So you can start thinking of moving the tooth down, which you can see is now is very close, but probably should be a little bit better managed. But let's assume that you've pushed the tooth a little bit more distal. And then what happens is now the canine is correctly positioned in the AP plane, but then what needs to be done many times is to torque the tooth into its position without putting any buccal torque on this tooth. So it's much more, if you look at the movements, they're much more complicated than just pulling the tooth down. They are, first is rotation and distalization. Second is rotation and root and crown movement into the space. Again, this tooth should probably be a little bit more pushed to the side. Let's do it right now. A little bit more, so it stays away from the lateral incisor. And you bring the tooth down and then you torque. You could argue that you can also torque the tooth at the same time if you can. So you can see that there is much more movements to be calculated and complex appliances to be done than just use a straight wire and put a coil spring, because then what happens is you get torque issues, tipping issues, and probably root resorption issues. So I hope this small video can help you better plan buccally erupted canines, because they tend also to resorb the roots of lateral incisor at a very high level. So I thank you for your attention, and hopefully this video will help you plan your biomechanics to get these impacted canines in a timely manner in the correct position in 3 planes of space. Thank you.